You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So we were talking about Earl.
Yes.
He was the fourth oldest?
No, second.
Second oldest.
Yes.
So he had one older brother or sister.
Right.
Okay. And when was Earl born?
He was born April 4th, 4 years before me. I was born in 21.
So 1917.
Yes.
Okay. And he died, when did he die?
He was 84, 01 he died.
December something?
It would have to be January.
December.
16th of December.
16th, okay. So this is from your granddaughter Michelle and your son-in-law John. Have you noticed that politics, culture, and fashion have changed over the years? What do you think of it?
Well, I don't like the clothes they're making now, or the colors. I was shopping yesterday up to Penny's, and Louise and I, my friend, neither of us saw a thing we wanted. Still crazy colors and crazy styles. That's what I think of it.
What about politics?
Politics?
Yeah, have you noticed that politics have changed over the years?
Well, my family and me always were Republicans. It just was everybody, it seemed, was Republicans. I didn't hardly know about Democrats. So, but when I came here, well, I was still felt Republican. If I voted, it would be Republican. But then Richard went to Vietnam, and he was so badly injured. And he came home, and he had a feeling that the Republicans liked war. That's the way he puts it. But it was, he changed my mind about politics. He compared the two for me. I didn't really care up until that time. But now I am so much for the Democrats because they tried to help poor people. And it's just, they seem to do everything the way I think it should be done. That's all I can tell you. And as far as the changing, I think the Republicans used to be much kinder and nicer to everybody. But now, especially this last two sessions with, what do you call it? The nominations, everything has changed. Everybody's fighting against each other, and I don't like that. And of course, I think it's more the Republicans that are causing it because they want to get back in office, and they'll just do anything to do it. That's all I want to say about it. I do hope that Obama wins.
These questions are from me, your granddaughter, Sarah. Do you remember Bonnie and Clyde?
I remember reading about them after, but at the time they were at it, I didn't know about it, or it didn't hit me until later you'd read about it, you know.
So when you say, like, what do you mean later? Like later that week or later in the year?
When I matured a little bit, maybe when I had time to read the paper, having young children in the house, you know, you don't have much time to read. But that's how I remember it now, that I didn't know about it when it was happening.
What about the War of the Worlds broadcast?
I don't know. I can't remember what that is. Is that was when they thought somebody had come to, aliens had moved in? Is that what that was? We had a radio then, and I guess that's where it was announced that it was somebody. I don't really forgotten the whole story, but I never was frightened because I guess before I really heard what was happening, they said it was just a hoax. It wasn't true. So it didn't bother me any, but I guess some people it did.
Do you remember Pearl Harbor?
Oh yes, yes. I was pregnant with Timmy. It was a Sunday. And he was born in July, and this was December, right? So that's how far I was along, like 4 months maybe pregnant. And that's the first thing I thought of, war, and here I am pregnant. I was frightened. And it was, from then on, it was never easy because, we had to conserve everything. And that's all you heard was war talk from then on.
And that was December 6th, 1941, I think, right?
6 or 7. If 7 comes up, but I'm not
Maybe
sure.
7th. 1941.
Yes, because Timmy was born in 42, yes.
Okay. What would you describe as the #1 most drastic change in the world over the past 75 to 85 years?
That one I would have to think about. As people, we used to have to save everything, in the early days. We couldn't run out and buy something. You would either fix it or have someone fix it. And my husband was one of those, Earl. Never throw anything away. He'd put it down the cellar and he'd fix a good part of them, but he wouldn't throw anything away. And now it's just the opposite. They throw everything away. This is, to me, the throwaway generation, is what I call it. And go out and buy a new one, and you buy a new one, and then the next month or so, a better one comes out. And they think they have to throw that one away. That's one of the things I notice. There's a lot of good things that's happened, like people are a lot nicer to other people, especially race. They realize how bad some people were towards other races and nationalities. And that, I think, has improved a lot. But I'd rather live back 50 years ago.
Do you think that has something to do with you growing up in the Depression?
I didn't know there was a depression because we lived on a farm. We never had a lot of clothing. We never had a lot. But we always had good food, or, proper food, because we raised it. We raised everything. We had cows, we had chickens, we had a hog we would kill, a pig, whatever you want to call them, in the fall. And my father, it was very cold in Maine, of course, and my father would hang up the thing in the shed and freeze it when we wanted some roast beef. Not roast beef, a pork roast. He would cut it off. And we had milk, we had eggs, we raised our own vegetables. My mother canned, A treat for us in the winter. We never had a lot of little Debbies or whatever they have now. We would sit by the wood stove in the evening and have a piece of turnip we used to have, or apples. We had our own apples in the basement. We had a big dirt floor basement, and everything kept very well down there, even in the summer. We didn't have refrigerator in the beginning, my early years.
One hog would feed your whole family for the winter?
Well, there'd be other things too. You couldn't have that every day, you know. That would maybe be the Sunday roast or something like that. No, there would be a fish man, they called him. Man that would go through with a truck and sell fish. And when that would come, my mother could scare up the money to buy fish, and sometimes even beef, like they would have steaks or something. But how she had the money, see, my father had a 100-acre farm, and he raised potatoes. Not 100 acres, of course, maybe 20 or 30 acres, I don't know how many, and sell them to the market. They'd take them away to different towns in a train, because there was a train that went through Oakfield. Anyway, that's how we got our money, which wasn't a lot, but it was a living with everything else that we grew. So I look back on it and I thought I had a good life. I didn't know we were about the Depression, that it was bad. I've heard about it, you know, but we weren't any different during the Depression than we were before the Depression. So that's that story.
Interesting. Also from Sarah, what are your fondest memories of raising your children? Your 5 children.
Well, I guess having them do well, like in school and getting along with people, which I had a very good 5 children compared to what they have now. Not any of the trouble. It came from, we didn't have a lot, but somehow they realized it, and they didn't keep asking for things that they knew they couldn't have. So I had some very good kids, especially Pat and the boys. I mean, they were all studious. They all, if they could get a book and read, they were happy. Of course, they liked sports too. We lived across from a park, and they used to play ball all summer. That was the thing. They played baseball in the field with the other kids around. So I don't know. They might tell a different story, but that's the way I see it. I thought they realized that they had all that we could afford, and never felt too upset about it.
Is there anything in your life you would do over if you could?
Well, I think I put on paper that I wished I'd gotten an education and not married so early. Those 2 things probably would be the most important. I didn't show good sense back then, let's put it that way.
You were a kid.
Yeah.
So you wrote on here, have a career. What would you choose as a career if you could?
Well, in those days, everybody seemed to be a teacher. My oldest sister, went to normal school, they called it back then. It was a school where they learned to be teachers. She had to maybe 50 miles, I don't know how far it was, but about 50. And that is also in there. She taught me at least 1 year. I think it was only 1 year. She taught the school that I went to.
Oh, she did?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it wasn't the dream job she'd like, but it was a job getting out of school, which is pretty special. So yes, that was Helen, my oldest sister.
So, but is that what you would have done? Would you have been a teacher if you could have?
Excuse me.
What would you have done as a career?
Oh, I probably thought of being a teacher. I don't know. I really don't know what I would have done. We're in the rural woods of Maine, you might say. There was nothing much you could do. That's one reason I left Oakfield, because there seemed to be so little there for anybody. I had that in my head, But I don't know. Would be the answer.
Didn't you and Earl elope?
Yes. My mother didn't like Earl, and I guess most of the family didn't. But I was sorry that I left school halfway through and got married, but I wasn't sorry then, and not for quite a long time after. But now I look back on it, and it wasn't a very good thing to do.
What are you going to do? That's life, right?
Excuse me?
That's life.
Oh, it sure is.
Okay, so these are from your granddaughter, Michelle. What do you miss most about life on the farm?
Oh, the freedom and the good things you can do on a farm. That is where I got my ambition, or my to garden. What is the word I want?
Green thumb?
Yes, I just liked gardening because I used to help my mother. It never left me that I've always had a garden. Even out this little thing here outside, I just love it. The neighbors will say, "Oh, how do you do all that work?" I said, "It's not work if you like doing it. It's my hobby, So I guess that is, that was, what do I miss? Well, I still do it. I don't miss that part. Otherwise, not much, because there was no culture, we just had a radio in those days, no TV. And we lived 3 miles from the town, a little town. There was movies there at one time in my life. We would somehow get there and go to a movie. That was a big deal.
Was it silent films?
Excuse me?
Was it silent films in the movie theater? Or speaking pictures?
Let's see. I think at the end they had, I can't remember,
Yeah.
to tell you the truth. But I don't know.
Okay. What do you miss most about not having your family and children around?
Well, I missed it, but I also enjoy the quiet and the not having to work all the time. I worked hard. 5 kids and taking care of a house, 6 rooms. And most of it, I liked doing it, but I got tired. So when they come to see me, that's all I need. And they're pretty good at that, most of them.
What do you love most about being a mother and a grandmother?
Well, I enjoy my grandkids because they're different than my children were. They that's easy to understand because they were brought up differently. But I was the same as the kids and the grandchildren. When they do something well, I enjoy it, and like my granddaughter Sarah, I am very proud of her because she has accomplished so much in the last 4 years, and she has just worked so hard, and she's done so well, both in school and at home. Beautiful home, and a little boy, Noah, and I am very proud of her. And I have 2 grandchildren out, and Tim's 2 girls in I can't remember where they live.
Oregon, or whatever it's called.
Oregon. And they're very, very nice girls, but they haven't found their niche in life yet. They have 2 or 3 jobs, but not the jobs they want. And this little Noah, he's something else.
That he is. Imagine living with him.
I couldn't get over it today, how he just take off and run like that. So cute.
Yeah, he is. Okay, this is a good one, I guess. What do you miss the most about being young?
I guess I didn't get tired when I was young like I do now. I had more enthusiastic for doing. I wanted to do things, and I like to shop, you know, and get new clothes and get new this and new that, and I've lost that a lot. Probably because I'm comfortable with what I have, and I'm 91 years old. And I think, well, how long am I going to live? Why go out and buy stuff that I'm not going to use next year or something? I guess that's not the way to feel, but that's what I do.
How have you seen the country change for the middle class Americans?
Everybody seems to, well, not everybody, but a good many people in the last 10 years has done well, and they have a lot of things that to buy, you know, and they do. They want to keep up with the Joneses, and I think they're much better off the last 10 years. But now it's gone downhill because of people losing their jobs.
Which memories do you want your family to think about when they remember you?
Well, I guess I'd like to have them feel that I was kind, and I was I treated each one the same as much as I could. I tried not to show partiality with the children. I had some very good kids, and they still are. So what more do you want than that?
Do you have advice for your grandchildren or great-grandchildren about life, happiness, or love?
Well, to be kind to people, to be honest, tell the truth, listen and try to obey your parents and your teacher. Show love to people as much as you can. There's nothing better than love.
That's nice. What do you love most about life?
Now, there isn't too much to love about life. I have a few health problems which I'm not enjoying. My poor vision and my poor hearing and a few other things. But I am happy and pleased that I can still walk. That's one of my best things. I try to walk every day. And the more I walk, the more I'm going to have that. You have to keep doing it. I enjoy my church. I enjoy my neighbors here. They're all very good people, which is very fortunate because you're so close to each other. Apartments are right one after the other, and there's nothing mean about any of them. Richard put it the best way. He says, you're all in the same boat. And that's right. You don't want to do anything to hurt anyone because you don't want to be hurt. And isn't that the golden rule? And that's what I find here. People are all very nice to me.
Do you think life is too short?
No. It's too long sometimes. Well, when I was 21, I might have thought that, but not 91. No, I guess I shouldn't say that here, but I might as well. I'm ready to go anytime. I've had my life, and I think I had a pretty good life, and I don't dread dying or worry about it, you know. So.
Are you happy and satisfied with how your life turned out?
Yeah, I guess I just said that in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so. I often wonder how different it would be if I had waited and married later and married someone else. But then I wouldn't have the children I have. And I love my kids, every one of them, and my grandkids. So.
Yep. Okay, these are from your youngest son, David. What is your fondest memory?
Well, the thing that comes to my mind first is when Pat was born, because I had these 3 boys, and I wanted a girl each time. Finally, I had a girl, and she was so cute. And she went over, and she was fat, and she didn't look like a little skinny baby. Yeah, that would be the best, I guess. And it seems if we had financially okay, you know, our life was okay. So the only bad thing was when Richard got hurt. That was really bad for everybody in the family in Vietnam.
He was in the hospital for almost a year, right?
Yes, in Chelsea, Chelsea, Mass. We used to go up, someone who would go up every week to see him. And he came home, a few times during that, maybe once a month or once in 6 weeks, we'd bring him home. And his friends would come and visit. Those were good times. but it was so sad to see him. We went to Japan. Our church arranged for us to go to Japan to see him. They arranged for us to get a ride from Washington State on an army plane where they took doctors and some soldiers, and they got us a ride there. And they, the people of the church, took a collection and got the money for us to fly to Washington State. And that was very, very good. Got over there and saw him, and he was so badly injured. I still see that cut. He had a broken leg, but he had this terrible cut, and they had to keep the cast off part of the day, or sometimes for it to heal. This cut down his leg, it was just horrible to see. It was that deep. And that was a very bad time, but it was so nice that we could get to do that. But he came home about 2 or 3 or 4 weeks after that. I don't know just when it was now. I don't remember. But it was good to take that trip to go to Japan. And we didn't stay there long, like less than a week, because it was Thanksgiving coming up. And they had a ride for us going back before Thanksgiving, so we took it. So we didn't stay. The Red Cross, I guess, took care of us there. They had a room and food for us. It was just wonderful. Everything, how they were so good to us. Never forget that.
When did you realize you were not a kid anymore?
I don't remember. That's a weird question. That's from David.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, well, you might have just answered this, but what one event had the most impact on you?
What?
Which one event had the most impact on your life?
Which child?
No, what event?
Oh, most impact.
Maybe when Richard got hurt.
Well, I guess, I think of buying a house of our own, a good house.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, and that was the house in Farmington?
Yes.
That you had built for you in 1960 or something like that?
Whenever I was around 14. But that work out to 60.
When what? When who?
Well, I was 14 years old when I did that, when I left Oakfield to come to Connecticut.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant the house when you bought the house here in Farmington.
That's what I am talking about, but then you asked.
No, this house was built in the 60s.
58,
Okay.
yes. And what was the question now?
What one event had the most impact on you?
Well, again, I guess it would be buying a nice house. We had a house before that was small and in Meriden, and it was a house, but I really enjoyed this house. And 50 years we lived there.
No. If you had one decision to change, what would it be?
What was that question again?
I think you've already answered this, but I'll ask again. If you had one decision to change, what would it be?
I would think to get an education one way or another. How I would have done it in those days, there was no opportunity, and I was a teenager.
But didn't you get your GED later in life?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did that after I was married, and I wrote probably maybe you've seen it. I took the course and you had to write your biography, and as I read it, I found it when I moved. You know, you go through everything when I moved here. And Pat took it and made copies to give to everybody. Maybe you read that. Anyway, I'm sure she still has.
Yeah, I think I read it.
Yes. And that was pretty positive too. I guess I'm a positive person. I look on the better side, and it helps a lot.
What do you wish to still accomplish?
To stay well enough so that I can take care of myself until I die. I know that's asking a lot, but
That's not asking a lot. That's a good goal.
oh yes, it is. And I every day I try to do something to get that. Keeping myself well as I can, and taking care of my whatever needs to be taken care of, instead of sitting here and saying, oh, I have no way to get to the doctor, I can't do this, I can't do that. But I find ways that I still have, my mind is well enough to do that.
What was your biggest disappointment?
Well, that was Richard, of course, his injury in Vietnam. He was so badly. He had 6 reasons he could have died, but they got him through all of that. His brain was, they operated on his head because he had shrapnel in his brain. Cut down his, maybe you'd want to hear this.
No, tell us.
He was cut all the way down his spine, all his stomach, because he had shrapnel in there. The bomb exploded, and he was the first one, and he was leading a group over in Vietnam, and he got the worst of it. Some went in his head. Well, most of his body, something was wrong with it. His eyes, his head, and like I said before, the leg, broken leg and a broken arm with lacerations. But he lived through it, and he's overcome it, and so much. He did teach school after that for a while. And he's taught at the prison, as you know. He does that. He did that volunteer work there. And he now I'm happy about him. He can play golf now, and he does pretty well at it. He's doing well twice a week. He can play golf. Now, to do that, you got to be in pretty good shape, I think. And he enjoys that. And the other thing would be Rogers leaving MIT. That was a very sad time. Roger is very brilliant, but he has, I guess it's getting along with people and working for somebody else. It's hard for him to work for someone else. He wants to do everything his way. So he's never done very well with all his brilliance, and he is very up there. His IQ is very high. And he still is. He's until he had this last problem with his health, he used to go to the library 3 or 4 times a week and just research whatever he had on his mind, you know. And that's why he can talk. If you've ever heard him, almost any subject, he can lecture on it, and that's what he should have done. Been a lecturer, and he loves doing it. Anyway, he went to, where Earl worked, he got the company he worked for gave Roger full scholarship to MIT. And he was there maybe 6 months. He just couldn't do it. I don't know now the reason, but he was, it was for them to do that, to send him, the company to give him 4 years at MIT. He had to be a good student and have a good mind. So why it didn't work, I don't know. I wish I knew. But there was something wrong, that he just didn't get along with people and certain circles. And let's see, was there anything else? Oh,
You said Earl's drinking.
that was very, very, very important, yes. That made my life a lot more stressful. And he wasn't too bad until, I guess, with him it was working. He did work hard. He worked in a factory.
Where did he work?
Well, you wouldn't know if I told you, but it was Chandler Evans. It's in West Hartford. They made metal parts for different things. They were making airplane parts at one time during the war, things like that. He had to grind, treat, what's the word I want? If he had gone to college, he would have been a great engineer. Like David is an engineer. David, I think, got that knowledge from his father, and David did well. He's doing well now, although there's something that I blame it on the Dobrets. They don't like bosses. They want to do things their way, and David has some of that too. But anyway, to get back to Earl, why he drank, nobody seems to know why people do it, but it made life harder for all of us, the children and me too. He never was. He never abused us, physically or anything like that. Mostly he'd just get drunk and go to bed. And anytime, every weekend, he worked. One thing, he did work when he was supposed to. But it wasn't a very good life that way because we didn't do much together. So I guess that would be about it. Otherwise, I think things were just kind of normal. Good weekend, so I want to go to the bathroom.
Let's take a break.
Yes.